Hello guys, as you can see my controller is not quite so tidy now that I'm using the NRF24 module. I took a shortcut and basically just connected the UART of the Arduino underneath the screen here to this Arduino, which then talked to the NRF. So that's not how my final design is going to be. So today I'm going to upgrade my prototype here so that it matches my intended design for a manufactured RC controller. I'm working on a design for a controller that I'm going to get manufactured, so I'm going to update this prototype to match that design to make sure it works before I send the boards out for manufacture. At the minute my design for the controller comes in two parts, or two PCBs. So there's going to be a lower PCB which will have two joysticks, will have two of these sliding potentiometers, will have one Arduino Pro Mini and one NRF24 module, and it might have a few switches as well on this board. I'm not 100% certain on what pins I'm going to have left. The second board then is going to be an add-on board, so you could get the first board and happily drive away your model, no problem, but you wouldn't have an interface screen, you would have no LCD. You can add that yourself, obviously, you don't need to buy the second board to add that, but the second board will have an LCD screen and it will probably have a few extra buttons and a couple of extra little features that this board doesn't have, because it will have its own Arduino Pro Mini board. So you basically have the power of two Pro Minis at your disposal. Now the benefit of that is that while this Arduino on the lower board focuses on sending signals to the tractor, it doesn't have to waste time updating the LCD. That can be done by the second Pro Mini. So your Arduino Pro Mini for your controls only focuses on the controls. So there's never any time wasted or delays in your signals. That Arduino always works on sending data. The other Pro Mini then can focus on updating the LCD or taking inputs from different push buttons that aren't so crucial, because you don't want a delay in your drive motor turning off, for example, just because your Arduino is trying to update the LCD. So you shouldn't have those problems. I also decided to use sliding potentiometers instead of another two joysticks, because I think it'll be a little bit easier for tracks, but also if you have an attachment to your tractor you can move it to certain angles. So say the steering for the John Deere mower that I have, so you can move this sliding potentiometer to there and that steers it to that angle, steer it a bit more, and it will hold its position. Whereas if you were trying to steer with a joystick to steer the mower as well, you would need, you'd need about four hands to be able to steer everything. So that's why I'm going with sliding potentiometers. I got these ones from Farnell and they have a really good feel. It's very, very smooth, but they are quite big, so I'm not sure if I'll go ones this big, but I might do, because these feel really smooth. These feel really good potentiometers, so it's probably better to go with the higher quality ones than going with a cheaper brand. And these are the cheapest ones that you can get from Farnell, and that's probably why they're so big. So my final design for the expansion board, I suppose you'd call it, isn't going to have a 16:2 character display. It's going to have a TFT display, so we'll be able to display pictures and more information on the screen than just characters. So that's another benefit to having a dedicated Arduino. For that we can add a little bit more functionality, so that should be a nicer screen. I'm not going to focus on that today though. Today I'm just going to upgrade this to be the lower board, which will have no screens, and we should be able to test the tractor out with that. This is really just so that I can properly test how the NRF24 is going to work with a tractor. Okay, so now that we understand the wiring, we can start to take this model apart. We don't need this LCD shield anymore, so we'll get rid of that. We also don't need this Arduino Uno, so we can get rid of it too. So all we're left with is the two joysticks, and we're going to create a new board now. So my plan is to take one of these little perf boards, so a quick and easy board for prototyping, mount it on the controller somewhere there, but the Arduino down there has to be a 3.3 volt Arduino, because this is a 3.3 volt NRF24 module, so we'll probably have that something like that, maybe that'll look like that, and then mount the two sliding pots somewhere like that. Okay, now as you can see, this would be pretty good for a tractor, but also for an excavator. So we have our two joysticks to control our boom and our slew, and then two sliding pots to control the tracks. So hopefully this should be able to work with both excavators and tractors, or any model that you could possibly want. I mean, you could fly a helicopter with this if you wanted, so no problem. I'll also need to put an expansion bus here. So this controller is going to look a bit strange, but this isn't the way the final controller is going to work. This is only a prototype, and I need to get access to the chips and stuff when I'm updating the, I might change something on this board before the final prototype, or before the final manufactured board. So I need to get access to the controllers and stuff, so I'm probably just going to put an expansion bus or something off here and connect that to the second board, which will actually be a big square board, so it won't look like a proper controller. The final controller will have the second board on top of this board, so it's maybe half an inch thick or something, the controller, and you'll have your screen at about the level of these joysticks here. So hopefully that'll work out okay. So the NRF24 module has a little female header like this that just fits the pins. That's fine. That just plugs into the board, and I soldered that in place, no problem. Same with the Arduino, female header for the pins. That will line up in the holes on the perf board, not a problem. So we don't have anything too difficult to do there. The sliding pot, on the other hand, is not a standard fitting, so I need to drill a few holes in the perf board here, and that should be able to mount that. While I'm drilling the mounting holes for the sliding pot, I'll also drill these holes up to 3mm, so that I can mount it to the piece of wood on the back here. I've all the holes, the mounting holes, drilled in this now, so I'm just going to line it up and drill the few holes in the bit of wood here, so that we can mount it to the rest of our controller here. I want to use the internal pull-ups on the Arduino, so I need to remove these two resistors because I don't need them anymore. Using the internal pull-ups on the Arduino will save us on the components, so save a little bit of money there. So this prototype for the bottom board has a couple of tactile switches on it, So these are just simple little tactile switches that will, well, because this is based on an Arduino, you can program it for whatever you want, but I'll probably just put them for lights or something like that. And also this dip switch. So my plan with the controller is to make it usable by lots of different people. So not everyone is going to need an LCD screen for a huge amount of tractors, and you definitely won't need it at the very start. So what you can do is just get the lower half of this board that I'm going to make. So there's going to be two boards, two PCBs. Be the lower half PCB with these joysticks and switches on it. Then there'll be an upper PCB with probably some more switches and an LCD screen. So if you've just a few models, you don't need the LCD screen. This little switch will be on the lower board, and it's a little dip switch with 5 little switches that you just flick with a screwdriver. And say you can select tractor 1, flick on the switch, tractor 2, or an alternative way to do it is to do it as a binary value. So you have 5 different switches, which means you have 2 to the power of n possible tractors to select from. So you just have to put it in your code. Or maybe you've only 2 tractors and you use one switch. So if this switch 1 is up, you're with tractor A, switch 1 is down, your tractor B, and then the other 4 switches you can use for your lights. You can program the controller whatever way you want to program it. That is the whole point of this. So I'll solder up the rest of these boards, and with any luck this prototype for my well, the first PCB of my controller should be working up and running. We'll be able to control the John Deere from it. So the schematic and the code for this first PCB should be on a blog post, which you should have a link to in the comments below the video. So that'll be the code and the schematic as it stands now, so it might get updated before I actually send the PCB off to manufacturer. We'll just have to see how it goes. That was a lot of soldering, but finally we have it finished here. I have my 2 joysticks, my 2 sliding potentiometers, I have 4 tactile switches, and I have some dip switches to select different tractors. And I also have the serial output that will connect to the other half of the controller, so the upper board, when I get round to designing that. Well, that's all there is to this video. I'm going to have to work on the code over the next week or two and get this working with the John Deere. So in a follow-up video you'll see this controlling the John Deere. Should have drive and steering from the joysticks. The rear linkage should be working from one of these sliding pots, so just move it to whatever height you want the 3-point link at. I'll set up these switches for some lights, I guess. And I've only one tractor working off the NRF24 at the minute, so I won't be able to really test out the dip switches, but I'll write that into the code anyway, so that it's ready to go if anyone else has tractors ready. So that'll be in a follow-up video. I also want to do a video on getting started with the NRF module, so I'll use this joystick in that video first. I'll probably shoot that before I shoot the control of the John Deere videos. I have another board with another Arduino and an NRF24 module, and we should be able to see some communication between these, and I'll have that starter code so that if you're just starting you can hook up your Arduinos and your NRF24 modules. You won't need to actually have a tractor, and you'll be able to test out sending some data from one Arduino to another. So if you want to see those videos, make sure and subscribe so you get notified when they come up. And if you like this video, make sure and give it a thumbs up. So you can shoot over to the forum as well and let me know what you think of this design with the two joysticks and the 2 sliding pots. Selecting the tractors from the dip switches here, and a couple of different switches for turning on and off some lights or whatever you want to program them to do. What do you think of this design? Let me know in the forum. I'll obviously have the second board with the LCD at some time in the future, but that's a long way off. Or let me know what features you think would be useful on the controller. If you think I haven't covered something or I've missed something, let me know. That's all I have for today, so thanks very much for watching.